Welcome, welcome everyone back to Beat the Game. This is Steve, and it's time for another aspect strategy video in leadership. And leadership has a lot of different strategies or baseline strategies. And this one, I think, is one of the ones that is the first one that was available to the leadership players, which is called Ally Resources. Now, obviously, these videos are meant to showcase the aspect strategy at its purest level. It is no way intended for you guys to just be like, oh, this is the only way to play these aspect strategies. These are always meant to be to give you a baseline on what the aspect can do and what those aspect cards can do into that strategy. If you play into that, obviously there's always room to diversify and kind of mix and match these strategies, but this at least gives you a baseline of that strategy and how it is intended to work, and then how you can fit that with your own personal deck builds or whatever is available on Marvel CDB. All right, that being said, disclosure all done. All right, what is the Ally Resources strategy? Well, Allies Resources, basically what you want to have is you want to have a hero that is very versatile, that can do some damage. It's either your hero can take a lot of damage like Hulk, or your hero is very versatile like Iron Man, or just I'm just naming a few heroes there, but just it doesn't matter what your hero does as long as he does something well. This strategy will work with them. So this strategy is really good with, I would say, 99% of the heroes. The only one I would say that it doesn't fit this mold is the Adam Warlock deck. So Adam Warlock right now is the only one that doesn't really fit into the strategy. Second to that would be Spider-Woman, because you can only kind of half play it. So yeah, so those two, again, those multi-deck aspects are the only ones that that don't really fit the bill. But everybody else who can just play pure leadership, man, this strategy is really, really good. And we'll talk about some heroes do it just a tiny bit better, and we'll see why in a minute. But yeah, so let's talk about what are the benefits of this, and what do what is the Ally Resources strategy good for? Well, one thing I do like with this strategy is you're putting a lot of bodies in front of you. So if you are a hero, that doesn't have a lot of resources. So I'm talking about the low resource heroes. Anybody who has a hand size of 4, hint, hint, so, and has a little bit of trouble with that, or if you have trouble with those heroes that have a low hand size, using the ally resource strategy can be very beneficial, because the ally resource strategy is great for either drawing cards, giving multi-attacks, or actually having your hero activate multiple times when you're focusing on the trait. And this strategy has a lot of different ways to play it, so there's going to be a lot of cards to cover within this ally resource strategy, depending on what kind of sub focus you kind of want to do with the ally resource strategy. All right, what are the downsides about this? Well, the only true downside about this is when you're using your allies as resources, you're not going to be activating your allies to remove threat and stuff like that. So you're going to be using them for different purposes. Again, it's not limited to just using them for resources. You can always use them to thwart when you need it and block when you need it. But again, if you want the strategy to work well, you want to use those allies sparingly and on a need to use basis alone. So you want to use them only in cases of emergency. And then again, you'll see why as we go a little bit deeper into strategy. So the only negative here is if you're doing a scenario like Ronin, Nebula, scenarios that have a lot of potential to just get out of control really, really fast, just because the amount of threat that comes out and stuff like that. So, and Collector Infiltrate the Museum is a terrible. It's not that bad if you're not using them as blockers. You can still use that strategy against the Collector. It's just it's very tempting to just block with allies, especially when the villain can hit really, really hard. And in that scenario particularly, it's a little weird. But again, aside from that, aside from like these really fast moving scenarios where you kind of want to take out the villain as quickly as possible, then you're okay. But if you're playing the long game or the mid game to long game, this strategy is so fun to play, and you'll see, and it's so easy, and it doesn't cost a lot, and it can be done really, really fast. All right, so let's take 2 seconds and let's talk about some of the heroes that do it exceptionally well. All right, so this is going to be a big list, and there's going to be a big list for different reasons. So let's talk about the big guys. All right, the big guys. I'm just starting with the big guys that can take on a lot of damage or defend really, really well. Which means that you don't really want to use your allies to do much. You want to use your hero to either soak up a lot of damage, and while you build up really, really fast those allies. So these guys, Hulk and She-Hulk, and Spider-Man, Vision, Groot, and Thor. These guys have a lot of HP, and they're very, very well placed to just build up really, really fast and keep those allies in play. Maybe use them once to do a little threat removal here and there. But after that, just have them sit around and just chill while these guys you build, and then you use them as resources. So these guys are the high defense ones. And then the other guys that I'm going to be showing, like Doctor Strange, Scott Lang, Tony Stark, T'Challa, Captain Rogers, Star-Lord, I forget who else I didn't name, Venom. All the rest of these guys are just so good and have such good cards to play around with. I think I forgot Gamora in there. Yeah, you can even throw Gamora in there, Nebula. Like I said, it's I can't say there's any bad heroes to play with this except for these two. These are the only two, Adam Warlock and Spider-Woman, that I would say this strategy is definitely not optimal with, just because there's better ways to build them. But yeah, this strategy works with, again, almost 100% of the heroes that we have available. The only one I think in the future that's going to be a little weird is Ghost Spider. I don't think that's going to be a good strategy for her because she's more event based, and maybe Ms. Marvel as well. That they're more. These guys are more event based, but there is some cards that we can play off of that. But yeah, so these heroes here, all these heroes have a lot of potential with these. Some of them because they have tons of resources. And there's ways to play around that and stuff like that. So for me, every hero can really, really play this strategy except for the two that I called, and probably Ghost Spider when she comes out. But yeah, everyone else is like fair game. So all right, so what are the cards you want to build with? Well, obviously, we're going to look at some allies. And for this strategy to work well and efficient and fast, you want to put cheap allies. And some of the best allies you can put is Ant-Man. You can pay 1 to put him down. If you're an Avenger, you can play Stinger for 1. And then you have Maria Hill that draws you a card. Major Victory, Squirrel Girl, Kalu that can get you some cards also. Hawkeye, and then Wonder Man. So all these 2-cost allies are like definitely exceptional for what you want to be doing. Now, if you want to be a little bit more specific, if you want to build an Avengers or a Guardians, then just look for the keywords. The keyword Avengers, this strategy with Avengers is just, I think, one of the best ones because we have access to a lot of very low-cost Avengers that do a lot of stuff. All right, if we have some, if we want to go up a little bit more in price, like in cost, Hawkeye obviously can help with minion control while we set up our board, which is very efficient. White Tiger can draw us like 2 cards or 3 cards, depending what the stage number is. One of the best allies that I would say that is more than 1 or 2 is Black Panther, because Black Panther can just go get some of the signature cards that we're going to need to really play into this strategy and hold one. So I think you guys all know the ones I'm talking about, but I'll mention them in a second, and I'll mention the combo with Black Panther. And again, the last ally I'm going to propose in the leadership build is Captain America. And if you're going with ally with the trait of Avengers, so if you have 4 Avengers or 5 Avengers on the table, so let's say Ant-Man is 1, Stinger is 2, Squirrel Girl is 3, Cavu is 4, and then Hawkeye is 5. Well, he is technically 1, but if your hero's an Avenger, that makes 6 Avenger characters on the table, which brings this monster of a Captain America down on the table for free. So there's nothing like doing something that's free. Or even if he only ends up costing you 2 resources, it's still incredibly powerful. So this is, again, some of the best allies in blue. Now let's look at some of the allies that we can definitely include in our builds for this, but in the basic cards. So one of the best ones, again, if you're playing as an Avenger, there is Mr. Blade. At a cost of 1, he is perfect to be a resource because you have to spend resources for him not to get discarded. So he's very, very good if you need him to do other stuff, to combine and other things like that. The other one is Machine Man. So if you're playing Hulk, you love Machine Man now because you can just discard cards to pump him up. Or again, you can use him as a buffer, or you can use him as a resource, which is great. Ironheart, again, I like to call her Iron Fart, but Ironheart, she nets you a card, so she's technically costing you, exactly 2 resources because she nets you 1. Cosmo, again, we already seen what Cosmo can do as a super ally, but he's still pretty good while taking no consequence damage, depending on the scenario or you're playing. Star-Lord is a 2/2 with ranged, which is kind of interesting, but he does deal you an encounter card, so he's at the bottom of the list for sure. But if you're playing a Guardians Steam deck, then why not include the man himself, Star-Lord. And then finally, having a Mockingbird be able to come in and stun the villain, again, slowing the villain's progression while letting you time to build is probably not a bad include. But if you're playing with a specific trait in mind, then you might want to focus on either Guardians or Avenger allies. So those are the allies that you want to run. The low-cost allies that, they come in for free, they come in fast, they can block for you in a pinch, and then you can still build up. I definitely recommend playing at least 7 to 8 allies if you're going to be doing this strategy. I would even go up to maybe 9 or 10 because you can always all right, perfect, I can use this one, I can play this one, especially characters like Ant-Man that have a thwart of 2 and stuff like that. It can get really, really powerful. So that's it for the allies. Now let's take a look at some of the signature cards that we want to be running. So with the ally resource strategy, one of the best resource cards that we can run is Band Together. Band Together, it gives you 1 wild resource for each ally you control. So technically, if you have no allies, this card is a dead card. So I never recommend putting more than 1 or 2 in your deck. I definitely don't think you should run 3. But again, it's up to you. It's your game. You can run 3 if you want, and that would be 3 triple resources once you have all of them in. Even if you have one ally and then it's no longer a dead card, it's still good. It's just a card that gets better and better. But I think 2 in a deck is super solid and definitely worth playing at least 2 in your deck. All right, aside from that, cards, because we want to have lots of allies, there's a couple cards that we really want to look into. So Triskelion is definitely one of the cards that we want to look at in the blue. The fact that we can increase our ally limit is money. Now, the other one is a little bit more thematic. This one is Nowhere, because you can only play it if you're a Guardian. So if you're a Guardian ally, you can play Triskelion and Nowhere. And this doesn't specifically say that your other ally has to be a Guardian. This one just says increase your ally limit by 1. So this makes it that you can have 5 allies with the Triskelion. That's really interesting. Now, if you're running an Avengers team build with a Guardian hero like Star-Lord, you can also play Avengers Tower, giving you an ally limit of 6. So that is pretty crazy once you have 6 allies on the field. And if you have a way to play Stinger, which you can play Stinger even if you are a Guardian of the Galaxy, you can bring her into play with the Make the Call. But yeah, so you could actually technically have 7 allies in play, and I call that the dream team, or the wishful thinking deck, because getting up to 7 allies on the battlefield is something that is really, really hard to do. But if you can do it, oh my gosh, it's like the Seller of Dreams, and I think only Star-Lord can do that. So these are some of the basic cards that add to this. So that's pretty cool for these types of increasing your ally limit. Very, very efficient for this type of build for ally resources. Now, I think one of the best cards in this is very simply here is Strength in Numbers. Strength in Numbers is just exhaust any number of allies you control, draw a card for each ally exhausted this way. So right there, if you have 1 ally, you can replace the card. Once you have 2 allies, you're basically netting a card. Once you have 3 or 4 allies, then you're just drawing like crazy. And if you can get to 6 allies or even 7 allies, man, this card is just bonkers and will make you go through your deck so fast. And it's a crazy card that you can do and recur with Black Panther. So this is one of those definitely targets for Black Panther, because once you have Black Panther out, you can pull that card back and then you can play it again and have it guaranteed on the table, which is super, super cool. And again, this is not a limit of once per phase. So if you have a way to ready all of your characters, there's a card that does that. You can actually do that again. So that is crazy, crazy good. And speaking of that card that readies all of your allies, it is called Avengers Assemble. It readies all of the Avenger characters. So that's why I'm telling you that this strategy is extremely powerful. So think about all of your hero cards. So let's say you have all 6 of them. Normally, if you have 6 allies on the battlefield, you're drawing 6 cards, and you probably got a double resource or a triple resource, and you can play Avengers Assemble for like 2 cards, and then you can do Strength in Numbers again, or you can just attack with all your allies that are all beefed up. You could normally finish the game with 6 allies hitting at the boss. So this is a great combo, or you can just draw more cards, which is pretty cool. All right, other cards that are very, very cool to play with this strategy. So that is for draw power. But now let's take a look at, increased attack power. So you can use Teamwork for a resource. So if you have an ally that can thwart for 2, like Ant-Man, or attack for 2, or even Wonder Man, who has an attack of 3 and a thwart of 1. But what's is good about that is you can actually use Teamwork to the ally as a resource to increase your attack or your thwart value, which is very, very efficient. So it makes your hero feel very, very powerful. Now, other cards that are very cool into this thematic as allies as resources is All for One. This is a card that not a lot of players play, because it says hero action attack, deal 3 damage to an enemy and exhaust any number of Avenger characters you control, and deal an additional damage to that enemy for each character exhausted that way. So this is a kind of like a Strength in Numbers. So if the goal is not to use your allies, so let's say they all have 1 damage on them, like they all took a damage, they all have 1 activation left, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to lose my allies. So what you can do is you just play 2 All for One, exhaust 5 allies, and then you're technically doing 2 for 8 damage, which is extremely powerful. So 2 for 8 damage, man, that's money in the bank. All right, so another way that you can do this as a super combo finish is Mass Attack. So Mass Attack is another great way to have some fun with the Avenger allies. So, or actually, it doesn't even have to be Avengers. It has to be Avengers or Guardians or Champions or Gamma or whatever trait that your hero has. But exhaust 3 allies you control that share a trait with your hero. So that's very cool. And then deal X damage to an enemy, where X is the total attack of those allies. So what's great about mass attack, yes, it costs 1 more, but you are not exhausting your hero. You are only exhausting the 3 allies, and then you combine every character's attack value. So that in itself is crazy, crazy good value. Now, you can do an attack for 3. You can do an attack often like for 11, 12, 13 damage, which is very, very solid. Now, just to continue with that kind of line of thinking, if I add a Mighty Avengers to the fold and I'm playing the Avengers trait, then I can increase all of these. So imagine a +3 attack or a +3 thwart on my guys. So this is super, super solid. Again, combines with teamwork, combines with mass attack, combines with a lot of things that makes this card extremely, extremely efficient. So let's put it in some of the support cards. Again, if you think that you're going to need to use your allies a little bit during the game, it's not bad to put a team training just to increase that health pool of your allies. So it gives you 1 more activation before they're like 1 away of dying. This is a card that is, I don't think it's very necessary, but it's something that you can always think about of including if you feel like your hero is moving a little slow, or you don't think that, or you want to just try out the deck. And again, putting out all the allies and having most of the allies do all the work, it's a good way to give an extra activation to all your people. All right, another card that I love with this, and if you're going to be using that type of strategy, you want to use your allies to do stuff, it's okay. There's cards that can heal them as United We Stand. Again, this is specific to Avengers trait, but if you have the Avengers trait, you can have a hero action depending on what villain stage number you're at. So 1, 2, or 3. You can heal the damage from X-friendly characters up to 3 characters where X is the stage number. So again, if you're playing on a stage number like Wrecking Crew, who only has 1 stage, then these are all, it's a 0 for 1. So it's not that exciting, but once you do 0 for 2, it's basically a free first aid, which is interesting because you're healing multiple characters for 1. So again, you can use him and then you can heal up your guys after that, which is a great, great card. Another card that I really like to see is leadership training. Why? Because then with the leadership training, it can give you extra cards. So you want to draw more, you can bring back your strength in numbers. You want to pull off your combo now, you're ready to pull off the end game. Just go and reshuffle that Avengers Assemble in your deck. Or even better, put that mass attack, or you need to heal your allies. There you go. You can just choose whatever you want, and you can put it back into your deck, which I think is very, very solid. Now, we talked about, you want to keep your allies on the field, but sometimes, not always, the villain has these big attacks that they're coming with overkill and stuff like that. If they don't have piercing, then this is a card for you, ready for action. It's another card that doesn't see a lot of plays. Most people just use our allies as just chump blockers or sacrifice. But being able to give an ally a tough and soak up 7-8 damage, ready for action, is one of those money cards in this strategy that can really go a long, long way. And then let's talk about some of the other cards that we can do. Some of those allies, those big allies like Black Panther, I definitely recommend at one point, once you use the card that's under him, you can get rid of him, and then you can bring him back with a card like Rapid Response. This is a card I definitely recommend putting at least 1 in, because there's always that one ally that's really, really good, like Hawkeye with his 4 arrows that deals 8 damage, and then just bring him back. Or Black Panther, bring him back with another one of those events, so you can get your strength in numbers, put it back, exhaust Black Panther, poof, defend, bring him back with Rapid Response, go get strength in numbers, do it again next turn, draw another 5-6 cards. It's just so good. So, and for 2, you get to bring that ally right back. The other ones, again, that if you want to give some good actions, so you want to use strength in numbers, and then look, you can use a sky cycle as well. So you can use this for strength in numbers, and then what you can do is if you have 1 or 2 of those sky cycles equipped on some of your allies, like Stinger that only has 2 health. Equipping that to some of those characters will help you, draw some cards, but get double duty with those things. And another great example for this that goes super well with Sky Cycle is the Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Again, this is mostly Avengers specific. It can still be done with Guardians, but it's not as beautiful, or it's not as complete yet. And hopefully we'll get some more Guardian cards once the game keeps progressing. I think for now, I think we've seen most of the Guardian cards, but Earth's Mightiest Heroes, again, if you're an Avenger and you can exhaust an Avenger, ready an Avenger, so your Sky Cycle just helps you not only draw a card, but also now pump up your attack, which I think is, and it's really good because it goes really well with the teamwork. So again, you can kind of combo off these things. You can ready your allies. You can ready your hero. So there's all these cool interactions that you can do. And the last one to kind of go into this phase is make the call. Again, I don't recommend running 3 of these, but maybe just 1 in the deck. Especially if you're running a Guardian hero and you want to put Stinger in your deck to have that increased ally. Well, there you go. Make the call. Pay 1 resource, bring Stinger into play without playing her and not being able to have that restriction bother you. Like, oh, I didn't play her from my hand, so Stinger is fair game because I made the call for her. So those are really great cards here, event-wise, and support cards that make that deck really, really shine. All right, so those are some of the ones. And then we're just going to look at some of the last basic cards that really help with this strategy. Sometimes, again, if there's some heroes that you want to play and you're like, oh man, I have a signature ally that I really like. I'd like to play it, but he doesn't fit into my strategy. Well, if you're a Guardian, honorary Avenger, that's just going to help thin your deck. And that's mostly what this strategy helps you do, is really thin out your deck, draw your big cards, and really have a 1 or 2 turns where you just demolish the villain with like 15 cards in hand, and you're like, and you're just like, oh my god, I've never had so many cards in my hand. Well, leadership, resource ally, or ally resource will give you that. I've played my She-Hulk deck or even my Hulk deck where I have 15 cards in hand with Hulk. Have you ever seen a Hulk with 15 cards in hand? Probably not, but it basically makes you win the game. You can double Hulk smash. You can attack 4 or 5 times with Hulk. It's just so powerful. And again, the last 2 cards I definitely recommend playing would be Endurance and Downtime. Again, you don't really want to use your allies to block, so Endurance, increasing your health by 3, can go a long way. And Downtime, because you'll be taking the hits, having the ability to recover with +2 will make a huge difference, because you can spend 1 or 2 turns in you can spend 1 turn in Alter Ego, recover, next turn recover, you're back to full strength while you're still building up your combo. And again, these are cards that are really, really efficient for this. So guys, this is the strategy altogether. Again, I think it's a great card. I think this sums up the whole strategy. Band together. For me, resources, ally resources is one of the fun ways to play leadership. But at one point, it just feels so broken, because you're just like, man, I can't understand why I'm just drawing so many cards. I'm dealing with all that's happening. It's one of those things that if you're playing on standard and you're playing this strategy, you're just going to be laughing at pretty much every villain. But if you're playing on expert, it might be a little bit more challenging because things come at you a little bit faster on expert. Heroic, heroic is a thing of the past. Just play standard 2, expert 2 if you really want to play heroic. But yeah, This strategy, guys, is one of the premier strategies that you can also kind of tweak in and out with some of the different strategies from leadership that we'll see. So you can use so basically what's a great way to do it is you can use the ally resource strategy, and then you can have a super ally that you're building throughout. So you're using, so let's say you put the Iron Man ally there, okay? Or just whatever ally you want. And then you make this ally strategy where you're just drawing cards and stuff like that. And then you have that one big ally that just can do all the work while you're just, banking resources, putting more cards on the table, and just having a great old time where you're just like, oh my God, I'm doing so much during my turns. It feels really, really powerful. And that's why leadership got that impression early on in the game, because this strategy, ally resources, was the first one that people got to know, because strength in numbers is from the core set. And there's everything else, like Band Together was from, that was from Thanos' deck, the Spectrum's deck. But yeah, but even in the early game, when the leadership was just a thing, just with the Triskelion and the Avengers Tower, you could have 5 allies. So think about it, strength in numbers, draw 5 cards. Wow, Avengers Assemble, you got, let's say, 1 or 2 double resources, you're just doing for 2, and then you can, the Sky Cycles from Ant-Man just made that strategy even more better. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. But yeah, that is the way to play that strategy. Put allies down. Don't spend them. Don't block with them. Don't use them as chump blockers for nothing. Unless you're in like it's a critical. Oh, I'm gonna lose the game. Then definitely do it. But try not to use your allies. Use them for resources, and you'll see that your games are gonna go so well. And it's just gonna be like, wow, I feel like I can take on expert now. If you're playing standard, oh wow, maybe I'll try this with expert too and see how that goes. So there you go. So that is definitely a fun strategy to really to start learning how to play with the increased difficulty. So guys, I hope this video was useful. Please share if you haven't commented on these videos. Please comment on what you like about that strategy. What's your go-to combo with this strategy? Oh, who's your hero that you say, oh my God, this hero can just like break the game with that strategy? So yeah, I always like to know what you think about these things. So please share in the comments, like and subscribe if you haven't done it yet. And guys, I hope this video of ally resources will help you beat the game. Ciao, ciao.